There are various regimes of sand driving, all commonplace on most expeditions. There is beach driving, sand tracks and dunes, but of these, sand tracks is the most common challenge to adventurers. Steering feedback is weak on any kind of sandy surface, and it is when driving on long stretches of sand track in semi-desert regions that driver fatigue sets in because of the lack of directional feel. What first-timers often do is fight the steering wheel. The trick of driving on a sand track is to hold the steering wheel very, very loosely. I'm going to give you a demonstration now. There's a nice corner ahead, and look what happens to the steering wheel. I'm hardly touching it, okay, and I coax it where I want it to go, and basically I'm following the sand track perfectly, not having to do any work at all. Now, this is the wrong way of doing it. We're going to go back and do that same corner again, and I'll show you the wrong way of doing it. Here we are again, wrong way of doing it. The curve goes this way. I'm actually going to turn in the opposite direction. Okay, watch what happens. I'm turning in the opposite direction, we're still going along the road. Now if you look at that from the outside of the vehicle, it's amazing how little feel you get through the steering wheel, and that's why novice drivers often do it. They fight the steering wheel, but that's because they can't feel which way their wheel's pointing. Like mud, steering is more effective when the accelerator is eased. Under power, there is massive understeer. Decelerate before the corner and accelerate out of it. Deep sand tracks can become like a railway track, trapping the vehicle. In cases like this, steering can become quite a challenge. Here we are in central Botswana, driving along sand tracks. As we've already discovered, the front wheels don't do a hell of a lot for our steering in such a track, and that we can turn the steering wheel as much as we like, and often nothing happens. Sometimes in a situation like this, we'll want to get off the sand track. Use of the steering wheel alone, we've already discovered, doesn't really work. There is, however, a trick. I'm going to demonstrate it now. Let's pretend we've got a vehicle coming towards us and we need to get off the sand track. Okay, the sand track is fairly thick, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem if I do this. Hold the steering wheel in the center, okay? And I'm going to jerk the steering wheel around and center it. If it doesn't come off the track, I'm going to center it. If it does come off the track, I'm going to center it. Watch this. And I'm off the track. We're going to and try that again. Watch again. Driving along. Jerk the steering wheel around and center it. You see how smoothly it comes off? We've already learnt that if I turn the steering wheel slowly, the front wheels will drag. Then perhaps they'll suddenly get traction and the vehicle will shoot sideways. By doing this motion and straighten again, the vehicle comes off very gently. Very, very important to center it no matter what happens. If it's very, very heavy sand, the moment you swing the wheel around, take your foot off the accelerator, which induces oversteer in a four-wheel drive vehicle. You'll only need to do that if we're not going to do it now, the sand here isn't thick enough. You only need to do that if the sand is really thick. You try it again and again and again, remembering to center each time. Swing it over and center. Swing it over and center. Eventually it'll come out of the track. The action of brakes in thick sand is also interesting. It piles a wall of sand in front of each wheel, and in doing so brings the vehicle to a halt so rapidly that it can be dangerous. Use your brakes gently in sand. Should this happen, reverse a short distance before taking off. Dune driving presents all of what we have learnt about sand, but adds steep gradients. With dunes, it's all about timing of the accelerator and judging the momentum needed to reach the top, which is slow enough to stop at the top, with the vehicle pointing downward. Power on a bend and you'll bog down. Too much power at the wrong time and you'll stop. Get it right and it looks very easy. Go too fast and something will break. Descending very steep dunes should be done in low-range second gear. First gear is too slow, and the sand flowing down the dune moves faster than the vehicle. This must be prevented, as should it occur, the vehicle will slide and control can be lost. In sand tracks, automatic gearboxes, if it gets very difficult, steep climbs, very soft stuff, very sharp curves, don't just put it in drive. Drive will take care of most of it. But when you have a situation where the gearbox is changing, gears are changing too much, changing the wrong time, click it down to second and stop the gearbox from changing the wrong time. Interesting thing about driving in sand dunes and sand roads like this, question of whether you lock the rear differential. Well, generally speaking, no, because it affects your steering, and steering is obviously difficult in situations like this. But I'm going to tell you something, it helps a lot in most of this. So, lock it if you think that there's a lot of axle twist happening. Leave it unlocked if the corners are very, very tight. If you find that it's been locked all day and you're battling over one particular obstacle, try it. Unlock it, try it, lock it, try it. On dunes and tracks, vehicles can get trapped when the vehicle fails to make a climb. A short run-up and a steep hill requiring momentum can pose a challenge. One way around this is to go back and build a flat, smooth run-up by gently rolling back and forward 2 or 3 times over the run-up area. This compacts the sand and builds a run-up area where the speed can be built up before the climb. Go back, carry on, make a flat area. When pulling off, it is important to do so gently to avoid all wheel spin.